I went on vacation instead of my brother's wedding. My brother Ryan has always been the perfect kid. Honor roll, star, athlete, never got in trouble once. Meanwhile, I was the screw-up who barely graduated and worked 3 part-time jobs just to keep my head above water. Our parents made it pretty clear who their favorite was from day one. When Ryan got engaged to his college girlfriend Natalie, my parents went absolutely insane planning this wedding. They dropped 15 grand on flowers alone. My mom quit her book club to focus on centerpieces. My dad took time off work to taste test caterers. It was like the royal wedding was happening in our backyard. The whole time they're planning this thing, they kept making these little comments. Like when I showed up to Sunday dinner in my work uniform because I had to leave for my night shift, my mom goes, "Well, hopefully you'll look more presentable for the wedding." Or when Ryan was talking about his honeymoon plans, my dad chimed in with, "Maybe watching your brother will inspire you to get your life together." But the real kicker came when my mom pulled me aside 3 weeks before the wedding. She sat me down at the kitchen table with this serious look and said we needed to talk about my role in the ceremony. I figured she was finally going to ask me to be best man or something since I'm literally his only sibling. Nope. She wanted to know if I could work the coat check during cocktail hour. I stared at her for a solid 10 seconds. "You want me to work at my own brother's wedding?" She got all defensive and said it wasn't working. It was helping out the family and that someone needed to make sure guests' coats didn't get stolen. Plus, the photographer was expensive, so they needed to save money somewhere. That's when it hit me. I wasn't invited to this wedding as Ryan's brother. I was invited as free labor. I told her I'd think about it, but inside I was done. 26 years of being treated like the family disappointment. And now they wanted me to work coat check at the wedding they spent my entire childhood savings account on. Yeah. My college fund had mysteriously disappeared when Ryan needed a car junior year, so I made some calls. My buddy Jake from my restaurant job had been begging me to go to this music festival in Colorado for months. 3 days of camping, good music, and 0 family drama. The dates lined up perfectly with the wedding weekend. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. I just bought my ticket, requested the time off work, and packed my car the night before. The morning of the wedding, while my family was probably running around like crazy getting ready, I was driving through Kansas with my windows down and music blasting. The festival was incredible. I met people who actually wanted to hang out with me, not because they needed me to do something for them. I posted a few pictures on Instagram, just normal festival stuff, but I guess someone from home saw them. My phone started blowing up around what would have been ceremony time. Ryan called me screaming about how I ruined his special day by not being there. My mom left this voicemail crying about how embarrassed she was when people asked where I was. My dad texted saying I was officially uninvited from family dinners until I apologized. But here's the thing that really got to me. In all those angry messages, not one person asked if I was okay or why I left, or even seemed to consider that maybe they had done something wrong. It was all about how my absence affected them. The best part, though, Jake's older sister, Emma, was at the festival, and we ended up talking for hours about family drama and terrible jobs and dreams we actually wanted to chase. Months later, she helped me get a real job at her marketing company. 6 months after that, we were dating. A year later, when Ryan called to invite me to their housewarming party, I politely declined. I was busy planning my own wedding to Emma. Sometimes walking away isn't an act of rebellion. It's an act of survival. For your whole life, your family had written a script for you. The disappointment, the helper, the one who stands quietly in the background clapping for Ryan's success. You tried to play the part, you really did. You worked, you showed up, you endured the comparisons, and every subtle jab that reminded you that no matter how hard you tried, you'd always be the one they measured against perfect. But the moment your mother sat you down and told you to work coat check at your own brother's wedding, something cracked. It wasn't just insulting. It was final confirmation that, to them, your purpose had always been to make Ryan's life easier, even on the day that should have been about family and love. They didn't see you as a guest, as a son, or even as a brother, just labor. Disposable and convenient, so you did something radical. You chose yourself. You filled your gas tank, rolled the windows down, and drove straight into a life that wasn't defined by anyone else's expectations. While they were obsessing over linen colors and flower arrangements, you were breathing free air and laughing under the open sky. For the first time, you weren't the screw-up. You were just you. Their calls and angry messages afterward only proved your point. They weren't mad because they missed you. They were mad because they lost control. They had built their world on you always showing up, even when you were uninvited to your own story. And when you didn't, the silence echoed through every polished speech and perfect photograph. But sometimes absence speaks louder than presence. It forces people to confront the space you once filled. And when you didn't come back, when you built something real, with people who saw your worth without a resume of family approval, that's when you finally won. You didn't ruin Ryan's wedding. You freed yourself from a life where you were never the main character, and maybe, just maybe, that road out of Kansas wasn't an escape. It was the beginning of everything you were meant to be. Story. My ex-wife mocked me. My new husband's a Harvard grad, a department head, not a high school dropout like you. I just smiled and said, enjoy it while you can. He'll be unemployed by tomorrow morning. Chapter 1. Rock Bottom and Rising Silence. I wasn't always the man people respected. Years ago, I walked out of that courtroom with nothing but my wallet, a box of clothes, and a divorce decree that screamed failure. My ex-wife, Chelsea, stood there with her perfectly rehearsed, smug smile, arm in arm with her new prize, Dr. Marcus Langston, Harvard graduate department head at one of the top biomed firms in Boston. He had the charm, the pedigree, the wealth, everything she thought she deserved. Me. I was the high school dropout who ran a small electronics repair business from my garage. I remember her words vividly that day outside the courthouse. Don't take it personally, Jack. I just upgraded. You were a stepping stone. Marcus is the real deal. Try not to mess up your next relationship if anyone even wants you. That moment crushed me, but it also lit a fire I never knew I had. While she flaunted her new life on social media, I buried myself in work, not just repairs. I learned every single night business strategy, electronics design, startup funding, contracts, AI automation. My GED came first, then community college, then an online engineering degree. I turned my garage into a startup and that startup into a company quietly. No social media, no bragging, no hint of what I'd become until last weekend. Chelsea invited me with what I assumed was smug charity to her charity gala at the Langston estate. Said it would be good networking for someone like me. I almost declined, but then I saw the guest list. Marcus Langston's entire executive board would be there, and I wasn't just anyone anymore. I was the silent investor behind his company's largest private competitor. I was Jack Vaughn, the founder of Signal Forge, and I was about to shake the very ground they walked on. Chapter 2, The Gala of Illusions. The Langston estate was everything you'd expect from two people obsessed with image. White marble floors, classical music floating through the air, waiters in tuxedos offering wine I could barely pronounce years ago and wouldn't have been allowed near. I arrived in a charcoal gray tailored suit. No flashy brand logos, just power and silence. No entourage, no name tag, no wife on my arm. Chelsea barely recognized me at first. She was in a crimson gown sparkling with jewels she likely didn't pay for. Her lips curled into that same smug smile from the courthouse years ago. Jack. Wow, I didn't expect you to actually come. She laughed. You clean up nice for a repairman. I didn't flinch, thanks. I came to see Marcus. We've got business that got her attention. She blinked, then forced another laugh. Business with Marcus? He's the department head of the most prestigious R&D division in the country. I don't think he has time for gadgets. Just then, Marcus approached. Same smug aura, square jaw, slicked back hair, the embodiment of upper crust arrogance. He gave me a slow, condescending look. Ah, the ex, still working out of that garage? I smiled calm. No, I upgraded. Now I run the company that's about to bury yours in federal litigation. Their smiles cracked just for a second. Excuse me? Marcus chuckled, clearly confused. I didn't come to argue, I replied smoothly. I came because I thought you'd want to hear it from me before the papers hit your boardroom Monday morning. Chelsea laughed out loud. You expect us to believe that you, a dropout, are suing Marcus's company? I raised my hand, gesturing subtly toward the balcony where several suited individuals were talking quietly. Men and women from Signal Forge, my company, the rival firm that had just acquired 3 of Marcus's main subcontractors, his IP leak consultant, and most crucially, the whistleblower who was going to bring their shady side deals into the light. You don't have to believe me, I said. But your legal team will. Marcus's smile faltered. He glanced around, his mind already working, calculating, and realizing too late that this wasn't a bluff. What the hell are you playing at? He he snapped, lowering his voice. Just playing catch-up, I said. You took my wife. She took my pride. Now I'm taking your empire. Chelsea's face drained of color. You're lying. You have nothing, I leaned in. Marcus will be unemployed by tomorrow morning. And you? You'll be right back where you started. Only this time no one will be dumb enough to pick up the pieces. I stepped back, letting the weight of my words sink in. That night wasn't about revenge through rage. It was about power through poise. The kind of quiet, lethal precision that makes the arrogant realize they were never in control. Chapter 3, The Cracks Beneath the Surface. By the time the gala ended, the storm had already begun to brew. At exactly 7:45 a.m. the next morning, a sealed envelope landed on the desk of Marcus Langston's CEO, hand-delivered by federal agents. Simultaneously, subpoenas were issued to his division for misappropriation of government research funds, falsified patents, and insider manipulation tied to offshore accounts. Marcus called Chelsea in a panic. He wasn't bluffing, he hissed. It's all real. The leak, the documents, the funding gaps. Someone traced it all back to us. Chelsea, still groggy from the night before, rubbed her temples. Wait, how does Jack have this kind of reach? He fixes machines. No, Marcus muttered, eyes wide. He builds empires. He owns Signal Forge. They've been eating away at our contracts for months. Quietly, I thought it was coincidence. It wasn't, it was me. Months ago, after they laughed in my face and flaunted their new life, I made a vow, not just to get even, but to build something greater. So I went dark. I partnered with ex-Intel engineers, cyber specialists, and private equity firms looking for a sleeping giant to back. Together, we turned Signal Forge into a ghost, moving quietly, acquiring small but critical infrastructure they depended on. And when I had enough leverage, I pulled the plug. Back in my home office, I watched the headlines roll in. Langston Tech shares down 42%. After federal investigation, whistleblower confirms ethics violations. Major contracts frozen pending audit. Marcus was summoned by the board. Chelsea's credit cards started getting declined. Their luxurious condo was no longer a fortress. It was a gilded cage under scrutiny. 2 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I knew it was Marcus. And I knew exactly what he was going to ask. But by then, the wheels were already in motion, and mercy was no longer part of the equation. Chapter 4, When the Masks Fell. 3 days after Marcus's company came under investigation, Chelsea's world collapsed like dominoes in slow motion. She arrived at her favorite boutique to pick up a reserved designer bag, a treat she felt she deserved after the week from hell, only to be told coldly that the card was declined. She laughed it off, then tried another, declined again. Confused and embarrassed, she stormed out and called Marcus, only to hear chaos in the background. They froze everything, Chelsea. The board suspects me of hiding money. They even contacted my ex-wife for records. What the hell did you do? I did, she snapped. This is your mess, fix it. You think I haven't tried? Your ex is destroying me and now you too. Silence. That was the first time Marcus stopped calling her babe. Back home, Chelsea tried logging into their joint investment accounts. Password changed. She tried her personal laptop, locked. Even the utilities had stopped auto-paying. Water was next. Then on a Wednesday evening, the final blow came. A knock at the door. Chelsea opened it to find a process server holding 2 envelopes. Mrs. Langston, you've been served divorce papers from Marcus and a civil lawsuit, citing financial deception, marital fraud, and collusion. He was throwing her under the bus. And then, for the first time in her self-absorbed life, Chelsea sat down on the cold tile floor, surrounded by the ruins of the life she thought was superior, and cried. Across town, I was having a quiet dinner with Amanda, Marcus's ex-wife. Yes, that Amanda. Turned out she was more than happy to help dismantle the empire her ex built, especially after what he did to her during their own bitter divorce. You're a patient man, Jack, she said, raising her glass. You didn't just get revenge. You orchestrated an opera, I smiled. It's not over yet. Chapter 5. She came crawling back. 3 weeks later, broke, embarrassed, and with her new marriage disintegrated, Chelsea showed up at my door. She didn't text. She didn't call, she just stood there in the rain, makeup smeared, expensive clothes soaked, clutching the last designer purse she hadn't sold. I opened the door calm and expressionless. Jack, she said, voice cracking. I didn't know where else to go. I stepped aside, letting her in, but said nothing. She walked in like a ghost of her former self. The confident, cruel woman who once handed me divorce papers like they were a party invitation had vanished. Now she was quiet, timid. Marcus left. He's suing me. I can't access anything. I didn't even know what he was hiding. Please, Jack, I was wrong about everything. I see it now. You were loyal, good, real. I made a huge mistake. I sat down, offering no expression. She looked at me like a drowning woman reaching for a life raft. Can we maybe start over? That's when another voice echoed from the hallway. Jack, who is it? Chelsea's body stiffened. A woman stepped into view, elegant, poised. Amanda. Chelsea's face turned white. Her? You're with her? I finally spoke. Amanda's been helping me rebuild emotionally, legally, financially. We understand each other. She knows what betrayal feels like. Chelsea's lip trembled. Jack, please. We were married? Doesn't that mean anything? I stood, walked over to the hallway table, and handed her an envelope. It did. That's why I protected myself long before you filed for divorce. This is your final settlement offer. Take it, sign it, and don't contact me again. She opened it. Her mouth moved, but no words came out. It was more generous than she deserved. But it also came with a legally binding NDA. No social media sob stories, no smear campaigns. Why? She whispered. Why are you being kind even now? I looked her in the eyes. Because I want you to live with it. I want you to remember the man you threw away for an illusion. I want that regret to echo every time you reach for something real and feel it's gone. She left without another word. Amanda stepped beside me and took my hand. That was classy, she said. Revenge doesn't always need to be loud, I replied. Sometimes the silence is louder than any scream. Epilogue, the final chapter. She never saw. Coming 6 months had passed. Chelsea's life had unraveled entirely. Her new husband, Marcus, the Harvard grad department head she flaunted like a trophy, had not only divorced her, but his high-salary job had evaporated after the investigation into financial misconduct, the one I anonymously triggered. Her name was now linked to a public scandal. She couldn't find work, not in her industry, not even close. Her so-called elite friends vanished the moment the headlines hit. Meanwhile, I'd quietly continued building my life. Amanda and I co-founded a nonprofit to help victims of betrayal and manipulation rebuild emotionally and financially. It was our way of turning pain into purpose. The media picked it up. Local news featured our story. Soon, major outlets called us the power couple of reinvention. One morning, I received a letter. It was from Chelsea. I saw your interview. It read, written in shaky handwriting. You look happy. Really happy. I guess I always thought you'd fail without me. That I'd moved up and you'd moved down. I was wrong. You moved on. I moved nowhere. If you still think of me at all, I hope it's with pity. Or maybe not even that. I'm just sorry. I folded the letter and tucked it away, not out of sentiment, but as a reminder. A reminder that the best revenge is not getting even. It's getting better. And for anyone reading this who's ever been broken by betrayal, remember this. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to fight to win. You just need to stand tall and walk away with your dignity. Because someday they'll look back, and you will be the chapter they never got to finish. Was this revenge perfectly justified, or should the storm have raged harder? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one. Hit like if you crave justice and share this story with someone who needs its fire.